Welcome to day 222 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of November 2012, which was Skyfall.
Interesting side note. I've seen the first 10, 15 minutes,
Oh,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't remember that I'd actually seen the first 10 or 15 minutes until we started watching it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Uh, but yeah,
I guess we'll get this out of the way. The first 10, 15 minutes, we're in Istanbul again,
oh yeah,
on
yep,
the rooftops.
of which we were like, these look like the same exact rooftops.
and they were. And then
And they,
there's a train as well. I mean, the train's more
yep,
important for this, but
It also was a much more epic scene with the train and with the roofs,
yeah,
too. I mean, they were on motorcycles, so that just automatically makes it more epic.
yeah, so, that's pretty funny to
yeah.
see back to back.
It actually kind of reminds me of um, if you remember how Casino Royale opened with that chase in Africa or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
How
Yeah,
that was kind of over the top and silly or whatever, and
Mm,
the stuff in Istanbul was the most kind of over the top silly part of the movie. And I
mm,
remember when we talked about Casino Royale, I kind of mentioned I wished that over the top style kind of kept going.
mm.
And here, even though it didn't keep going, I didn't mind it.
I think it's probably because the storyline is a bit stronger.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the story for Casino Royale just was kind of okay. I mean, it didn't really have anything that really grabbed me, but this was actually I found to be really interesting.
Hmm.
I
So
did too. Especially another problem with Casino Royale is that the girl basically didn't do anything
yeah,
and stuff.
Useless.
But here it's not really focused on the girl, and the girl does do things.
well, there's
And
two of them, and
it's too.
they have different roles, and it's not typical for someone in
Yep.
this kind of
Yeah.
role, which is interesting because especially when the second one showed up, I was like, oh, here we go, and right, but then they didn't.
Mhm.
They did a little bit,
Yeah.
but then they
Yeah.
kind of didn't, and I was like, huh, interesting. I kind of don't want to spoil it, but
Yeah.
Nope.
yeah. So there's that,
This
and
movie overall is just very visually appealing.
yes,
Yeah, certainly.
yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that I don't know, maybe a third of the way through or something, and I
Yeah.
was thinking earlier, yeah, especially like the scene in the office building, or not the office building, whatever, the skyscraper in China with the displays on the windows,
Yeah.
and then again
Yeah.
the club fancy casino kind of thing, going onto that abandoned island, and there was that a really long shot where the villain guy walks in.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of really well done shots, and again, usually especially if it's because some movies it's very obvious we're showing a grand sweeping landscape, you know what I mean, and that,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, for example, right, and that looks good, but that's very obvious, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's rare for me to notice other kinds of really interesting cinematography outside of that. And
Hmm.
honestly, maybe I just can't remember that well, but I feel like it's the only other times I've really felt and noticed it like that, besides this, was Benjamin Button,
Oh,
Oh,
that's true.
which had some really nice cinematography as well. Where again, it's not it's not showing off some amazing effect or anything like that, right? It's just the camera work and the what's actually in the shot and the placement of things that actually caught my eye, and I was like, oh, this is actually really well done. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I'm glad that I don't know, I was kind of oh, this is interesting.
And
So,
even the mundane, quote unquote mundane scenes and stuff, it was still very visually appealing and
Yeah.
everything too.
Yeah, this movie has a very good grasp of color design.
yeah,
Yeah. And I guess another thing too is that there is a fight at night at the end, but you're still able to make out what is happening in it.
right.
And I
Yeah.
really like how they used the haziness of the fire and everything too
Mhm.
to their
Oh, yeah, that was lit really, really impressively.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so visually this is very strong. Actually, the soundtrack is also strong, really strong too,
Mm,
with how
Yeah.
that works. Because there is like, of course, the homage to like the standard theme and stuff like that.
yeah.
But there's more to it than that. So I don't know, because that's another thing I find that I almost never like notice when like soundtracks stick out, and so
No, I don't usually do either.
Yeah.
it's something a soundtrack has to really stick out in my mind for me to go like, oh, interesting, and so yeah, so that was good too.
I guess a good combination of both like the cinematography and the soundtrack is that this movie has a very good use of tone. It
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
utilizes its tone. It knows when like certain beats are happening and they know how to like kind of exacerbate it
Hmm.
Mm,
in a good way so that the audience can, even if you're not like super familiar with some of the characters, like I'm not that familiar with like the James Bond canon,
Right,
but
same.
there were a lot of like scenes that were carried by like the visuals, the color design, the sound design, the soundtrack. It all works together so that even if you don't like super know the characters that well, you can still kind of feel what they're feeling just by the mood that's established by
yeah.
the film itself.
Yeah, and like, well, actually, so uh, this movie was nominated for several Academy Awards,
Mm,
being Best Original Score, Best Original Song, Best Sound
Mhm.
Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Cinematography.
Oh,
And
perfect.
it won Sound Editing and Original Song.
Oh,
oh.
So yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, okay, we're not alone in this. So yeah, that's definitely works really well there. And then I would also like to add, so that was exceptionally good. And then uh, I really like the villain.
Yeah, I do too.
He's one of those where like it's kind of he's kind of similar to um the I mentioned this before, the guy in Mission Impossible 3.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a similar kind of style where it's like he's not outwardly like he's not some big tough dude with like a deep booming voice. He's not
right.
outwardly intimidating.
like Bane and was
Yeah,
trying to be.
but
Bane.
yeah, oh yeah. But like you still feel he has a presence to him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he's this unpredictable nature, and again this whole idea of like he's been like the whole thing where it's like, oh, the villain actually knew what was going on the whole time, like that can come off as like really forced, but
mm,
I definitely didn't feel that here. And then yeah, I don't know, just like his the thing so there's something that like I could see as a negative thing, which is
mm,
like where that you kind of don't really know what his problem is with M,
mm.
right?
Not exactly. I was like kind of waiting for like the big
Yeah,
explanation,
there's
but
no
then
specific thing, and it's like kind of I'm not sure how if I think that's better or not.
yeah, like I was gonna say, I don't think he needed one. I don't know if that's weird to say because like we usually would like, to know what the
Yeah, we
motive is,
usually
but
demand such things, but I kind of agree that maybe the whole mystery of not knowing was probably what added to his overall character because
yeah.
I feel like if you looked into his backstory, they probably didn't want you as the viewer to feel pity for him because that would kind of lose the impact of the ending scene too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, well, do you want to show it or do you not want to show it? So I think overall it was a good idea not to show it.
I think
Yeah,
yeah. The way that the characters carry the emotion, like he's so like he hates her so much and then she's like kind of afraid of him. And like whenever they're kind of in a room together, then you see that there is a history, but maybe you're not supposed to know the history between them because like the emotion already carries itself. Like what more at that point would add to that?
Yeah. Because there have been films where we're like, okay, why is this villain doing this? There's literally no reason why this would be something that they would do and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in this case it works because, yeah, as you said, he carries the emotion and he explained at least what his motive was and everything.
And again, the acting, helps a lot with that. And then also, like, even if you don't get, like, the exact specific, you definitely see, where and kind of how, in a sense, he was damaged. Again, the whole, like, cyanide thingy.
Mm.
And which is a very interesting visual. So yeah, it's very interesting how they handle that, but I think it works really well. And yeah, I remember I said for Casino Royale, like I said, like, overall, again, positive, but not like super amazing. I'd say, it's fine, right? That's kind of how I saw Casino Royale. I like this quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
I do too.
I'm not exactly sure how much. Like, I might switch it a little bit because I'm staring at, like, other movies where I'm thinking, I'm like, do I like it more or less than this? Do I like it more or less than this? I'm like, I don't really know, honestly. So I might just kind of need to sit on it for a while. But yeah, I definitely like this. I liked it more than I thought I would. So
Yeah.
I certainly did too. I have seen this before, and I remember coming out of it being like, I really actually enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. So
Yeah, considering the ending of Casino Royale was such a weird one.
yeah. So
Sora apparently rolled around too.
speaking of weird ones. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I wanted to do any sort of complaints, I can't really think. Well, again, part of it, well, no. I don't know, if I had to complain, is that I still don't find Bond himself to be super interesting, but he's not bad, he's just kind of fine.
Mm.
Yeah, he's okay. I guess, like, they take us to his hometown, which I found, like, a little bit, like, I thought it might be a good jumping off point into, like, oh, okay, who is Bond? Like,
Yeah.
where does he come from? Because this is his childhood home, and, like, we see one of his childhood, I don't want to say friends because he's, like, evidently much older than him, but like, one of the people that he knew when he was younger, and, like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess an interesting thing with this movie, like, just when I just said that, was like, there is a little bit of interesting stuff with personal history between two people.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I think maybe that's why us not quite knowing what's going on between Silva and M is okay, because we know that he feels such a strong thing towards her, and we know that she also feels a strong thing about, like, that same incident that causes them to come, like, to butt heads and, like, come to this, I don't know, like, conflict. And maybe it's like that, just that history of, they had something that was going on, and evidently it ended badly for him, and he's, like, going after her because, he wants his revenge. But the fact that we just know that there's that much, like, raw emotion, and they have, like, such a long established bond, lack of a better word, but they have, like, this thing that's going on, and I think that does carry it so that we don't need to know, like, oh, the exact reason, or oh, he doesn't need, like, the big, like, stereotypical Bond villain speech. There is none.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, again, someone who works well by not explicitly doing a ton.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we remember to say it this time. The opening credits scene.
Oh yes,
this.
you
Like,
forgot to mention it last time, but the opening credits scene.
Oh yeah.
I
It
well the
was really cool for this movie
yeah well the
too.
last one I remember it was very like it was all like it was like 2D animated kind of like silhouettes and like it was all about casino stuff, right? And so
Yeah.
that was interesting. But this was like well it's not like I think it's a lot of was actually 3D CGI and stuff around like that. But
It's
like
still kind of trippy.
no yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I like this thing. This one was more interesting just visually. So
Hmm.
It definitely like stays in your mind more, like
yeah
especially the colors and the effects of it and everything.
yeah so yeah actually let me so it didn't win best cinematography. What did win best cinematography?
Taken two.
Um,
If it did, I'll die.
no.
I doubt it.
Okay.
Hobbit?
No, Life of Pi.
Oh,
Oh, wait, Life of Pi
okay.
came out this year?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
pretty surprised we didn't see that.
when did it come out?
That's a good question.
I guess though there were a lot of movies that, when you think about it, probably definitely would have overtaken it.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Oh,
Hmm.
November 2012.
Oh, I guess
No wonder.
Yeah. Well,
That's not iconic.
so Skyfall actually made over $1 billion.
Oh wow.
So like Life of Pi did well. It made over 600 million, but
Oh,
So
nice.
oh, apparently Life of Pi is officially in Tamil.
Oh,
It's in English, French, and Tamil.
yay!
Main character from Tamil Nadu?
I don't know. I don't. I remember I read the book, but I don't remember how or where he was from.
I don't know. I did see it, but I don't remember it that well. I mean, but it makes sense that like that would work well as as cinematography. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is still good. Again, the one thing it's not even really a complaint. It's more just this was fine, where everything else was good or better. So
Yeah.
I'm especially okay. I think coming into coming into Casino Royale, I was ultimately a bit disappointed because I thought I would like it a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so then that kind of set my expectations low. So when I got to this, I was like pleasantly surprised. But even then, I think like even if I watched this first, I probably still would like it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Just maybe
Yeah.
not quite as much. Because again, I wouldn't have expected the kind of like villain performance and like the cinematography and the visuals. I wouldn't have expected that to kind of be the focus, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is good. I'm glad I saw this actually.
Yeah.
Yay.
And actually, so this is day 222, so 222, right?
Yes.
So I was like, what day was 111? And
I don't know.
well,
Was it
What was
that
one-
should we not speak of?
yep,
Oh my god, it is that.
it was
that.
that.
We should not
Yeah, it was.
That's so sad.
I know. Actually, we just recently that video was uploaded like I don't know a week or so ago, week and a half. Yeah, about a week and a half ago.
This was a much better triple number.
Yeah, this is much better
Yeah.
triple number, so that's nice at least.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, stay.
We actually, speaking of the Lord of the Rings
Oh yeah,
movie,
yeah.
I don't think it comes as much of a surprise what our next movie is.
Yeah, well, the next set of 3 years that end in the same series, actually.
Yeah.
So we have
So-
another end of year thing. And actually, fun thing is once that finishes, then we have another end of year thing.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
So that's gonna be interesting to go through with that. But I'll say
we're
this:
also
I have.
closer-
Hmm?
We're also closer to your favorite movie that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah. We're also You mean this one, right?
But I meant down below.
I know. I will say I have seen the series, the one that's starting next one.
Mhm.
I saw them in theaters when they came out. Actually, it was kind of a little, I don't know if tradition's the right word, but like among because it was right after we graduated high school, and so
Mhm.
some like my friends, like a high school group, we'd like come back for winter break and like watch these movies together.
Oh.
Oh.
So I remember thinking they were pretty good, but I don't remember a lot of specifics. So I'd be curious, especially since again we fairly recently watched that other series. So it'd be interesting to kind of more directly compare this and having more fresh in my mind. So because I know some people really don't like these movies. So, but even then, I'm still kind of like curious to see them. So even if I don't end up not really liking them, I still think it'd be interesting to go into it that
Right.
way. So anyway,
Okay.
but I mean they're not going to be horrible. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, I guess that's it for this. And woohoo.
Yeah.
Next we go on and embark on another journey,
Yep.
an unexpected journey. Hi. Okay,
Uh,
anyway.
uh,
All right.
uh,
Okay, we're done. Bye.
Bye.